Welcome, Fablers, to Fawks Talks, the only show on the Fable 42 network devoted to all the other shows on the Fable 42 network, where we build community through friendship, gaming, and chaos. I'm your host, Ronan Fox. With me, as always, is Cody. Say hello, Cody.
Hello.
Hello. Tonight, we take a look at the first episode of Vault 42 to see what happens when Texas becomes a barren wasteland filled with drinking and fighting, but like in fantasy. We'll also see exactly how awkward a group of social misfits can be in a large city in Legends of Shoggoth. And of course, we'll take a look at the nominees for most dysfunctional family in Realms of Ukodor. But before all that, let's get into some sponsors and announcements. So we are sponsored by Griffin Co. So everything that you see that is 3D printed on any of those streams comes from Griffin Co. Also, we are Vorpal powered, so all of our audio and digital displays, digital dice, all those sort of things are brought to you by Vorpal Board. Other announcements, we are on Patreon and Ko-Fi, so check out all those details below. And let's see what else. We got all of our VODs. You can find them on Twitch, but you can also find them on YouTube. So check those out. And our shop is now up on our website. So it has merch, has the Fable 42 logos and things on some shirts, and then also the Wizard stuff with more of the shows coming in the future. I think that's it. As far as announcements go, not too much there. We'll get into this week later on, but I think with that, I still have no idea what I'm doing, and you have nothing better to do, so let's start some Fox Talks. And also, today is the day you guys have all been waiting for. You've been asking for it. I hear you. I'm here to give the people what they want. Cody, roll that intro.
Copy that.
Yeah, we're moving on. Whatever. All right. So we had a big week. Okay. Lots of stuff happened. Obviously, we spent tons of time on an intro. Clearly. But more importantly, we had the premiere of Vault 42, which is a really fun game. If you guys like tabletop RPGs in general or the Fallout universe, this is definitely the stream for you. And it's just starting out, so now's the perfect time to hop aboard. And don't worry, I'll get you caught up on all the current events here shortly. What else did we have? We had the fundraiser stream today. We just finished that like an hour ago. So I want to thank you to everybody that contributed, either through donations or spreading the word or just showing up and showing support that way. All of your help is most welcome, and we are eternally grateful for your support. I'm sorry, I'm just reading comments about my sleeves. After the show today, we have Wizards right after the show, so that'll be the next episode with the inter-house mingling. I see a couple people on my stream. I'll move my thing here in just a second so I can tell you guys everybody that's in that one. We have the all person of color stream next Friday, which is actually going to be in this time slot. So our Black Friday show will be at 6 Pacific, so that'll be 9 Eastern. What else? Let's see here. So basically, is that everything? Is that all of our games coming up? What's next? Next week's Friday, and then the week after that. Are we back on Wizards after the Black Friday show?
I don't have the calendar pulled up.
No, I don't know. We'll look it up. But essentially, you never have to tune into another network. We have tons of stuff going on, more on the horizon. Basically, don't really understand how Solo sleeps. So yeah, that's what's new in the Fable 42 universe. What's new with you, Cody?
Nothing much. Just same old.
Awesome. Well, I just ate an entire pizza on my little break here, and 3 breadsticks and a thing of pasta, but whatever. I was starving. Okay, so anyway, let's see. With that, let's get into the show. Okay. We got a great one for you tonight. Joining me from Realms crew is Lizzy, who plays the Lightforged Paladin Nafiko, and Dianne, who plays a bunch of stuff. But on Realms, she is the Furbolg Cleric Kiwin. Also, if you're listening, honkers, I've left you like 6 messages. Why the hell haven't you called me back? Either way, as you know, when it comes to Fable 42 campaign, the choice was theirs. So let's start the run and recap and see how they did. So we're going to do it. I think going forward, the way we're going to do it is this. So technically the first show after my show is Vault 42. So I think we'll kind of count that as the first show of the week. And then we'll do Legends after that, and then Realms after that. So we will start with episode Vault 42, episode 1, which is called Welcome to the Wasteland. So let me just say before we get into it, the cosplay by all the players was on point. You know, it's right there with Legends, particularly Marcus, who I believe was going for a very casual Wastelander. But he really classed it up with a sick beard. So the story begins on October 23rd, 2177, which feels like a week from now. It's been exactly 100 years after the bombs fell in the Great War, and the setting is a post-apocalyptic Texas, or as I call it, pre-apocalyptic West Virginia. We zoom in on a settlement of Hub City, formerly Lubbock, known for the birthplace of Buddy Holly, but in the present is preparing for a big cage fight as part of the celebrations, because nothing stands to honor the late musician like a little WWE in the backyard. We first meet Petra, a pink-haired minx who manages to acquire multiple suitors despite the fact that she wears a skull on her head. She is stopping into town to say hi to an old friend who also owns a butcher shop. He questions her affectionately about what she's been up to and how business is going. During this time, in walks the aforementioned Marcus, courier of the Lone Star Parcel, but not before he checks the area for landmines. Call him curious, call him paranoid, the man is thorough. And wouldn't you know it, Petra and Marcus recognize each other from his delivery route, because like Petra, Marcus gets around. Marcus makes his delivery to the butcher and is rewarded with 22 caps and an uncooked chicken thigh, like a really high-class flea market. We then set our eyes, on an interesting female enter the Trinity Bolt Scrap and Weapons Shop. This would be Tipper, an emotionless synth that instantly reminded me of an old high school girlfriend. Her speech patterns and mannerisms are anything but normal, but the kind shopkeep Rita helps Tipper all the same. Tipper tries to steal some money, not money, it's caps, steal some caps while Rita is distracted, but to no avail, and instead befriends the shopkeep like any good criminal. We then turn our attention to an interesting young character dressed in a foreign fashion, stumbling into the celebration as people begin crowding around the fighting cage. Clay is parched, starving, and out of caps. He's been in town for about 45 seconds before going full raccoon, stealing scraps from the surrounding tables. He's able to scrounge up a decent meal from the scraps left on the abandoned tables, and then makes his way over to the crowd. He finds a peculiar girl who perplexes him by her choice to wear a carcass of an animal as a headdress. He spends some time trying to figure out what type of animal it is before settling on a dog with antlers, proving to me that he either accidentally ate something that was hallucinogenic or he's got the worst case of sun poisoning I've ever seen. Either way, he eventually bonds with the strange girl over their mutual love of the color pink, because in the wasteland, it doesn't take much. The crowd is surrounding the large fighting cage at this point. We see a mutated dwarf, an old man in a dirty suit, and the Amazonian-like woman Ash, like they just crawled out of some backwoods holler of a Rob Zombie movie. Ash, the hybrid super mutant, appears to be the champion fighter of the city, the dwarf being her stout manager. We learn that because of the celebration, Ash will be forced to face a new challenger. The others we met previously make wagers with a bookie named James and bet on Ash to come out victorious. Marcus uses his flea market earnings but keeps the chicken thigh. Tipper gets introduced to gambling, to which she shows an interest in, and combining that with her carefree nature towards burglary laws should prove hysterical in the future. She then tries to prove that she is for sure an actual human by striking up a completely normal human conversation held by people humans. She fails. Meanwhile, Ash learns that she must face a Protectron robot, no relation to Tipper, in the Thunderdome. The crowd chants Ash so much that I immediately felt like she was going for a final gym badge and she only had her Pikachu left. But this must work as motivation as she comes out of the gate with a lunging dropkick. Combine that with her blue hair, and I was immediately reminded of Sasha Banks. If you don't get that reference, look it up. It's perfect. Even after putting up a hell of a fight with moves that all had nicknames, might I add, she learns that the Protectron robot was too powerful for her to overcome alone. So despite her valiant effort, the robot goes full Gary Oak and destroys poor Ash. The crowd starts chucking debris into the arena, proving that this was a solid pay-per-view match. Ash is down, near death, but that wouldn't be the worst for her. Adding salt to the wound, her manager uses stim packs on her to heal her just enough to tell her that she's fired. Because the future of fighting is in robots, like that Hugh Jackman movie, I think. Ash expresses her hatred of robots, which makes me thankful that everyone in this party are completely normal human peoples. With Ash suffering defeat, this means our party should have lost money. However, Petra uses her flirtatious ways to get to the bookie to think he's made a mistake on her bet and gives her some winnings instead. Seeing this, Clay follows suit, taking notes from Petra on how it's done, and also gets a payout. Tipper sees the exchange of caps and tries to get money from James, but doesn't understand what gambling is and walks away empty-handed. And poor Marcus never even made an attempt. Instead, he's approached by Rita to deliver a package to her sister and explains that the route has grown increasingly dangerous and that the first package she tried sending didn't make it, so she would like for him to hire a team to accompany him on the delivery. After seeing what Ash was capable of, Marcus approached her asking for her help. Watching him simultaneously ask Ash for help and try to avoid getting his ass kicked instantly proved that he was the beta in this relationship. Ash secures a solid per diem and bonus, and realizing her options are limited, tentatively agrees to be the hired sledgehammer. The rest of the group soon filters in. Tipper seems fascinated by Ash, asking her if she is a bionic. I believe she's still waiting a response. Tipper reminds me of a cross between Abed from Community and Edward Scissorhands. I'm just throwing that out there. She hangs around because she finds the group fascinating and begins asking very random questions and is speaking in terms the rest of the group doesn't quite understand. Clay joins in ready to earn some money, and Petra buys Ash a much-needed drink. Ash eventually gives a solid yes to join the group, but only after giving a list of demands and rules, which seems rich considering so far she's extorted Marcus, caused property damage to the tavern, and had an attempted assault on Clay. But as a sign of good faith, they seal the deal, or she seals the deal, by eating and drinking all of the caps the group had tricked the bookie out of as her sign-on bonus for this job. Following this arrangement, Ash and Marcus individually head off to bed. Clay sticks around to earn some caps, helping with the chores around the bar before taking a snooze on one of the tables. And let me just take this moment to say, Clay really reminds me of that guy in your high school that wore those button-up anime shirts and had a large affinity for Japanese culture. It was me in high school is basically what I'm saying. I mean, my name's Ronan, for God's sake. Anyways, Tipper sneaks off behind the building to shut down for the night. But all of these nights appear bland and mundane compared to Petra's. She follows the bookie and his girlfriend home for a drink and some strip poker. And we end the show with Petra trying to do the old smash and dash, the old toot it and boot it, the old railing and bailing. Okay, I'm done. She had a one-night stand is what I'm saying. And that's pretty much where that episode ended. So, as you can see, it's got colorful characters, it's got amazing story, and I can't wait to see some of the interaction that happens there, because it doesn't seem like the characters, there's a couple characters there that seem like they're going to naturally butt heads, so I can't wait to see where that takes off. But ending with Diane's character Petra is a natural transition to Diane's game, where she reaps what she sows. So let's take a look at some Legends of Shah Gal. We're on episode 5, Meetings and Parties. All right, so now in Athcross, the group decides to relax at the Lepar Lounge for the night before their meeting in the morning. Rex slipped away, because of course he did, into the streets of Athcross with Oscar in tow. The rest of the group, unaware, take in the lounge filled with books and studying wizards. They do their usual. Daffodil heads to the stage. Frizz takes a seat at the table in the corner and starts tinkering. Jinx heads straight to the bar, and Matcha takes a lap around the place to take it all in and see if there's any interesting patrons. Excuse me. It's hard to talk nonstop. All right. Jinx starts chatting with the bartender, a guy named Theo. He's described as nerdy cute, so you can assume he has no facial hair. Jinx tries to face flirt with him, but ends up with a tankard full of awkwardness. But she does seem to make a good first impression, as she is gifted with a good wine and a date once Theo is off shift. Jinx then leaves the tavern, followed by Daffodil, who had just collected her earnings after a solid performance. Mata took this opportunity to talk to Theo, learning he was the contact that Avis had spoke of previously. Meanwhile, Rex had made his way to the temple to see the Kids of Cord, which are orphans and not the name of an emo band. He gives them some food that he had been stockpiling from his train ride. This sounds like a nice gesture, but killers often do charitable things to appear like functioning members of society. I wrote this really late, and I forgot I added that. That made me giggle. Sorry. The poor, naive Kailu of the Kids of Cord thanks Rex, not knowing any better, and sets out to make sure each kid got some rations. Rex and Oscar then go to the library, the Athenaeum. I should know that word. It's a real library. Athenaeum. Athenaeum is the word. Presumably to see which can learn to be human the quickest. But no, it's just Rex gathering more books on his quest to become the medieval version of Google. It actually would have been easier for Rex to ask for the books he didn't want to read. After reading what he could and taking all the notes, he made his way back to the lounge. Not even noticing Jinx or Daffodil peeking in from the window, he walks in straight to the bar where he meets Theo, and somehow manages to be more awkward than Jinx. And speaking of Jinx, during all of this, Jinx returns to the tavern only to quickly flee out of embarrassment, once again followed by Daffodil. Jinx struggles to find her confidence, which is only made worse after she face plants after a failed parkour attempt. They all regroup around Jinx for a brief alleyway intervention, which didn't seem to work, which is odd because it went really well when we did that for my dad. Everyone then separates again, which is really this group's MO. Rex returns to the bar, and feeling the existential dread of getting older, dips his toe in the blurred world of alcoholism. He chooses to have an adult beverage for the first time, Theo giving him a glass of nice wine and seeing him hold it down in one shot, seeing him down it in one shot and keep it down, decides to switch him to some lower end whiskey, which prompted Rex to vomit it all up. And I think this is the perfect euphemism for adulthood. Theo, while cleaning up Rex's mess, gave him some of wisdom. And I know what you're thinking. It was the same thing I was thinking. Man, I hope this wisdom is Akuna Tomata. But it wasn't. Instead, it was something like, you might think you're on the right track and you know what you're destined for. Then someone shows up or something happens to make you question everything. You just have to decide if you want to listen to this person or pay attention to this event, or if you want to continue on the journey you've been on. Which I think we can all agree, if the Kids of Cord was an emo band, this is exactly what their first song would have been about. Frizz approaches Rex while he is in this condition, and being the fatherly figure, tries to talk Rex up but gets nowhere fast. He decides to take Rex to his room so he can sleep it off, then waits patiently by the front door to give everyone else their room keys. Seriously, this group would be lost without him. Jinx continues her bender with Daffodil in tow. She eventually finds a fountain, so after drowning her sorrows, attempts to do the same thing for her lungs. Daffodil, trying to help her, tries to pull her out, but only really succeeded in keeping her head above water, literally and figuratively. Eventually, they see Theo approaching them in the hopes of hanging out with Jinx. Seeing her in the water, he jumps in trying to save her, pulling her out of the fountain. Jinx, pretending to be very drunk once again. Theo helps her back to the tavern and up to her room, being a gentleman. He is thanked for this act by being stalked and assaulted by a possum who was after the skeleton key. However, Daffodil was unsuccessful in her attempt. While this is all going on, Mata is off by herself, slinking through the city after sunset, becoming a lady of the night, if you will. She therefore naturally is on the hunt for as many fun holes as she can locate. She also found a door to a thieves guild with a thieves guild marking on it, although there didn't seem anybody on the other side. Once that everybody is back in tavern, Frizz tries to retrieve the communication devices, which are in need of some tweaking as they currently function about as well as Alexander Graham Bell's prototype. During this time, Frizz gets his first-hand experience with Daffodil's skin pouch and gets into a shouting match with Mata, which I believe is just how they communicate. The next morning, Rex tries to get up early and sneak off like a girl running off with that one boy with a motorcycle. However, unfortunately for him, Frizz had set up an escape alarm. But unfortunately for Frizz, Rex gave no fucks. Eventually, though, they make it down for breakfast, where Rex notices Jinx had not come down yet. He takes her some food, and the two share a nice moment, all things considered, for two people who have no concept of social etiquette. From here, the group does something unheard of and leaves together as a single unit, like together as one, not separated. But this was only after a heavy-handed DM tip. Making their way to the meeting with Professor McGrath, Leosa stopped them to tell them she wasn't sure when they would get to meet with the headmaster Elosa, but that he was going to be attending a party that night. The meeting with Professor McGrath started with him wanting to see the rocks, telling the group about the elementals, the Maidens, and how he is trying to harness the element's essence to help the kingdom. He then fondles Rex's rocks and then offers them money, but not like in a weird way. He offers them 500 gold pieces for the Steam Mephit rock, and then offering 1,000 gold pieces to them if they could go retrieve other rocks for him so he could, continue his studies. After a bit of discussion, the group agreed and are now free in the city until they are summoned for the party. So next week, we may actually see something that was planned by the DM. So that's exciting. So that is everything up to up through episode 5 for Legends, and now we will just go right into the flagship. We will look at Realms of Ukodor, chapter 13, Shadows of the Past. I'm going to take a drink first, though, because I've been talking a lot.
I've been trying to tell you for the past couple minutes you've been muted, but I was
Dude, that would suck. I actually am now extremely paranoid at all times that I've just dropped after last week when I did all the entire announcements and sponsors, and I was the only one. I was just talking to myself.
Hey, Cody, can we agree if that does happen, we're just going to let it ride?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Sweet. That's great. That's fantastic. All right, it's whatever. It's practice. Shut up. All right, so chapter 13, Shadows of the Past. So if you remember last week, we left off with a cliffhanger. The group had entered the Artificer's Tower looking for Kiwin. They found dozens of prisoners, but were unable to free them because of the arcane locks. They arrive in the main room where they see several tables with wires and 2 large Tesla-style coils powered by magic with bolts of lightning sparking off the machines. Very Gene Wilder a la Young Frankenstein. While in the room, they saw their friend Kiwin and what looked to be her brother. Then they heard the booming voice that revealed itself to be the Artificer. He was happy that they had come into the tower and was excited to share one of his experiments with them. A large blue puff of blue and purple smoke erupted from the ground, revealing a floating figure. He had black hair with a silk shirt, black cloak. He also had 2 sharp fangs coming from his upper jaw. I'm picturing Stuart Townsend from Queen of the Damned, which really completes this classic horror motif. And so we start this chapter with an initiative roll, because let's face it, Solo hates a slow build-up. So right into the action. Realizing that the friend was still in captivity, Eclipse started the fight by trying to break into the cell. But instead of being Danny Ocean, ended up looking more like Sylvester trying to crack open Tweety Bird's cage. The rest of the group attacked the floating vampire, who then cast a spell on Kyriel, banishing her to her home plane of existence, which was probably a pretty decent holiday for her. As the battle ensued, Nafiko had a spark with her memories. These flashes caused something to change within her. These changes then affected her outward appearance, creating a bizarro Nafiko with different eye color, an aged voice, and skin color variant. However, she knew that this was Victor Kareen, not Lestat, the evil from the past who was believed to be dead. Nafiko was filled with rage, and combine this with her physical changes, it's presumed that she was going through puberty. That's my guess anyway. She harnessed this teen angst and charged Victor. The group held their own, as Kiwin and Nolan were able to escape through a clever use of Dimension Door. They had managed to get Victor to break his concentration on Kyriel's banishment, returning her to the field of battle. Hard to say if she was bummed. Victor cast another powerful spell that froze some of the party members. While they stood paralyzed, others were able to break the effects of the spell and continue their attacks. The group saw that Victor was trying to do something, but the energy source in the room was affecting him in some way. Eclipse brought out his trusty rope and grappling hook once again, solidifying to me that he was in fact a former rodeo champion. He and Nafiko were able to pull Victor close to them. However, Kyriel threw meteors towards the aforementioned energy coils, damaging them greatly. Looks like she was pissed about being brought back. One of the coils exploded, and several of the cages in the room opened as if magic or power keeping them at bay was weakened. Victor looked down at Kyriel, smiled and thanked her, and instantly Victor was gone. Break out the tinfoil hats and ask yourself, did she know what she was doing? Probably not, but you never know. With Victor gone, there was no time for celebration as several hodgepodge constructs stumbled out of the now open cages like a straight-to-video Terminator movie. They were able to destroy them fairly quickly, but not before Carrick fell unconscious. But not to worry, Bizarro Nafako made the thing's head explode with her gaze. Bit of a let me try that again. Bit of a far fall from the pacifist we were introduced to. That is a hard sentence to say. Just then, several tiny machine-like spiders attached themselves to the foreheads of most everyone, causing them tremendous amounts of pain. I think the artificer was trying to turn them into his companions. The artificer spoke and gave Eclipse and Kyriel, who were not attacked, an opportunity to save their friends. They must enter the cages or their friends will die. Eclipse shouts empty threats at the big scary voice in the sky. But after Kiwin starts to fade, they cave in and go into the cages. The artificer then puts the rest of them in cages as well. So they're alive, but now they're trapped. It's like a 2-for-1 on sardines. I mean, yeah, it's a good deal, but now you just have twice as many sardines. And I said everyone, but I misspoke. Almost everyone's in prison. Roland's outside. Kiwin tried to yell to him, but there was no response. The artificer spoke again, instructing Roland to forget the past and kill anyone who attempts to leave the cages. He agreed and stood watch. Bastard. Kiwin did not give up, though. He continued to try and break through to her brother. Meanwhile, Nafako sat there and tried to process the clusterfuck that was her mind. As this proceeded, Kiwin pleased looked like they were starting to work. Her brother snapped out of it and began to speak with Kiwin. She told him to turn her into a rabbit again so she could help her friends. He agreed and did so. However, the artificer noticed and cast a terrible spell on him, causing him pain and bringing him back to the operation table. Kiwin came to her brother's aid, and she yelled out to the artificer, who eventually showed up laughing. Stalking her once more, explaining to Kiwin it wasn't fate that brought her here. Walking to the cages, it wasn't fate that allowed Carrick to free Eclipse or Kyriel to leave the grasp of her mothers. Kneeling down to Eclipse and saying it wasn't fate that allowed him to flee his captors. And finally reaching Nafako as 2 other arms emerged, gross, from his robes, revealing that the artificer has 4 arms. And speaking to Nafako as her eyes grew large, it was beyond fate that brought my daughter back to me. What? Mind blown, right? All right, so this was an amazing moment, and you might be asking yourself, what the fuck now? And I hear you. I don't know, but that's why you gotta wait and tune in until next week, right? So you gotta wait for Wednesday to see what's in store with the good buddies, who I will say are increasingly more edgy per episode than I previously thought. So we'll see. But that is it for Ronan's recap. So you were completely caught up on all the major events with only my slight bias and opinions, which are factual until proven otherwise. I think this is a good time for a break. Cody, you got anything to add or anything? What do you think of the shows?
It was pretty good. This episode's a little different than the last. You have more on your wardrobe than normal.
I know, dude. Yeah, it's so cool. I'm gonna go this weekend and probably buy a space heater or something, because it's seriously. I walked outside and I'm like, it's warmer out there than it is in here, so I'm not sure what's up with that. But it's like my nose is running. I'm freezing, but whatever. Yes, I'll be back to normal next week, hopefully with some sort of normal temperature. Okay, so yeah, I think we will stop there. Go ahead and enter a raffle for the mid-show giveaway. Give us about 5 minutes and we'll be back with our guests, Lizzy and Dianne. Stay tuned. Yes, I do need a fur-lined tank top. Thank you.